I've wanted to make this video for some time now, quite a while actually, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe I just wanted to get my message out there, reach other people. Maybe I'm doing it for myself. It just feels right to be able to share it, and I think almost in a way that you don't have to hide something about yourself anymore. Like so many people dealing with something negative in their lives, or experiencing a struggle, or an important part of their identity, like when people come out with their sexuality, or open up about a struggle that they went through, maybe a loss, or maybe they're grieving, all these things in people's lives. And I've just had a drive to share. So I'll be talking today about my mental health, and I've had this vision in my head for a while that has to be like this pristine theatrical production where I go through my whole journey in my life about my mental health. And that's just ridiculous. Like, of course I'll just share what I feel like sharing in this particular moment, and if you don't feel like sharing, just don't share. It's the same principle, when you go to see a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. You just open up about what you feel comfortable sharing. Just you don't have to force yourself to, let it all out. And when you're first talking to these people, you have these appointments and everything, you don't automatically start going on about your entire life, like every little detail that of your life and everything that's happened to you. You build rapport with the individual, and they understand more about who you are slowly over time, and then you begin to open up more and more about certain things, and discuss whether you want to talk about them more. So it's not this thing where I have to share everything all at once, and that's basically the gist of what I'm doing today, is just giving a brief overview, because I've had many diagnoses in my life. Been to many therapists, psychiatrists, and psychologists. I've been to mental hospitals, been through the ringer, all of it, the whole 9 yards. It's and it really has not been fun. It's a struggle to deal with all that, and diagnoses from PTSD, generalized anxiety, social anxiety. I'm not 100% certain if that's like an official diagnosis, or I was told that I had it at some point by like a therapist. ADHD, schizophrenia, psychosis, major depressive disorder, OCD, and also bipolar. Now, I think that's all of them, but it's important to note that it's quite unlikely that one person would have all these diagnoses. It's very unlikely. It's not, but as I've seen so many different clinicians, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists over the years, many years, most of my life, that they're going to come to different conclusions, and of course you may change over time, present with different symptoms. In my personal experience, and from the opinion of the experts and the clinicians that I've talked to for the longest periods of time, they diagnosed me with schizophrenia, basically, as the big one, and also more recently was able to get a diagnosis for OCD, which is, I would say, these two conditions are the ones that are most prominent in my life and have caused me the most amount of suffering, and have been the most debilitating in my life. If I had to say one that I know with absolute 1000% certainty that I have, it's OCD. And if I had to choose one that has been the most debilitating for me, it's also OCD for sure. I've been on medications not for OCD before, but I have been on SSRIs from quite a young age. Not for long periods of time, but yeah, I was on SSRIs. I was on antipsychotics as well, and that's part of the reason I'm making this video today, because I'm thinking about just taking this channel and turning it into a vlog channel for mental health and the particular illnesses that I have, because I feel like it's quite rare for somebody to have two of these illnesses at once, and they're both pretty bad, like debilitating, not just in terms of the severity of the symptoms and just rare having the two simultaneously. Though I have met other individuals I highly suspect of having both of these as well, but I want to touch on that in another video, why it's actually pretty hard. Like I think there's a lot more people that have schizophrenia and OCD that are diagnosed, a lot more, and I think it's a lot harder to diagnose schizophrenia and OCD especially masks itself, because there's just the individuals who suffer with these conditions, they lie to themselves a lot, as I did for many years, and I did not believe for the longest time, for years. I've had schizophrenia for a very long time, I'll say that, but it wasn't until quite recently that I've come to terms with that I actually have it. You're in such a delusional state. I mean, that's a hallmark of being schizophrenic, is having all these delusions and being just a delusional individual and kind of detached from reality. And even like now, understanding that I have it, I look back and it's just it's like, yeah, you can't see it at that time. So a lot of people, if other people in your life aren't forcing you to get help or intervening, a lot of these people, they of course, and it's also like coupled with fear and anxiety, with both schizophrenia and OCD are surround you with fear and paranoia and anxiety, that it pushes help away. Because think about this, an individual with depression may be more apathetic to getting help. Like, they're not entirely against getting help, and a lot of people are proactive about getting help, and it doesn't influence their mind in the same way OCD and schizophrenia does, because it just totally warps your perception of reality and becomes the forefront of your mind. But depression is kind of, you can have a pretty cognizant mind. It's while still having depression, it's a whole different beast. But you can go and get help, or you at least recognize that you have a problem, something isn't right, and you're much more likely to identify that in yourself, that something is wrong, than somebody who is experiencing schizophrenia and oftentimes OCD as well, because you become so accustomed to building your life around certain beliefs and habits that it becomes totally normal to you. It becomes your world. I'm not saying this does not happen in other conditions, but like I said, there's this element of paranoia and fear, whereas in depression, generalized anxiety, it's not like you're having these thoughts that like everything's going to get so much worse for you and your life is going to be decimated and totally destroyed if you go and get help for depression, or if you go and get help for having anxiety, or even bipolar disorder. I know some people have psychotic features when they have bipolar, but it's more like it's not everybody with bipolar has the psychotic features. I think it's actually a minority of people. I know in manic episodes it can be different, but and there's the bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. But even if you're in like an extreme manic state and you're in these very strange states, then it's often more likely people will notice these things in you, encourage you to get help, and then you'll at least be in some kind of state where you if you fall back to being depressed, then maybe you'll be able to recognize that these thoughts were delusions. Whereas if you have schizophrenia or OCD, that never happens. Your thinking, it's extremely rigid, and it's not mood dependent. You can be very anxious and you can be happy, and the way that in which you think and process environmental stimuli is warped, and it's not mood dependent, as I said. Whereas for other conditions, it is mood dependent, where if you're in a different mood, then you can start to think more clearly and then recognize them as delusions. Whereas, like I said, in these other conditions, it's different, and it's coupled with a lot of fear, like I said, in getting help. But yes, it can be awfully, and oftentimes is very debilitating. And if you don't get help for these conditions, I'm telling you right now that things only progress and get worse over time. I don't know. I feel like I have some type of responsibility if somebody is watching my videos right now. If you have schizophrenia or OCD, and I'm not really the one, I'll say this up front, that I'm not the one to be able to help you, because I have these illnesses myself, and I'm opening up about these things because it is an illness. It is an illness. It is no different than if somebody has, diabetes, high blood pressure, other, well, those are more environmental, but like genetic conditions. I'm trying to think of some right now, but I guess type 1 diabetes, and like a sun allergy, or allergies, and it's no different than having a cancer. It's like a cancer of the mind, an illness of the mind. And so when people attribute these stigmatizing beliefs to having these conditions, and almost as if they're not illnesses, they're character flaws, and that there's something wrong with your personality and fundamentally who you are, when your illness is not you. You're not schizophrenic. You may have schizophrenia. You're not OCD. You may have OCD. Okay? So these are illnesses that can be treated. Though I don't think I can use terms like cured in this video. From what I understand, you can't really cure schizophrenia or OCD, but you can basically put them in total remission for a very long time, or your entire life. But I think the big differences between schizophrenia and OCD are, one, schizophrenia tends to react better, or to medications. It's considered a more pertinent thing that you're medicated. And for OCD, honestly, you can do a lot of the behavioral work, the thinking, change your thinking, work process, and become more mindful and cognizant of the way that you think. They're very different in terms of their treatment, but there are parallels between them, and there is a major component of both of them that I believe a lot of people overlook and don't understand. Why it may seem like a lot of people who have schizophrenia also have OCD, and vice versa, and the delusional thinking and the very rigid, like paranoid type of thinking, and it comes from something called psychological salience, which is basically, how do I describe this? It's like noticing things that other people don't notice in like an obsessive way, and being overly concerned with details that in the bigger picture don't matter, but being hyper focused and like hyper vigilant on things that just don't matter, whether it's OCD or different what do they call them, your obsessions, and you know ruminating and just the whole obsessive part of OCD, and then also schizophrenia, these delusions that you have and these ways of thinking and the elaborate complexes that you develop over time about certain experiences and certain objects and places and people, and they're very much the same in that in the sense that you have a very heightened sense of everything around you, and like sometimes I guess it's that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. Like you're so focused on the minute details that you can't see the huge problems and the bigger picture of things. A good analogy I just thought of is, it's like seeing an elephant, or being in a room with an elephant and a mouse, and you can only focus on the mouse, and everybody's telling you, why are you focused on the mouse? Do you see the elephant? And you can't really focus or see the elephant, even though it's right there next to the mouse, and all you can think of is the mouse, and you keep ruminating about it and thinking, oh, this mouse is here, it's all over the room, it's right there, and it's just like, that's all you can think about. I don't know if that really works, but that's just one way that I've thought about it. But yeah, big reason why I'm also making this video at this time in particular is because right now it's early morning on the 5th of February, and I have a psychiatrist appointment on the 9th. I'm going to be seeing a psychiatrist again. I haven't been on medications in a while, but I have been on antipsychotics in the past. Trust me, I know they can be pretty bad, but I think that at a certain point I was starting to get benefits from them, some of them in particular, but I was just so inundated with the idea of like being controlled, and like my mood, in terms of mood and my behaviors, I think they stabilized, but in terms of my way of thinking, I don't think it entirely did, and that kind of makes sense because I didn't really want to go to therapy or anything for it. So medications can like alter your mood and to a certain extent like your behavior and like how you react to certain things. I guess they kind of prime you for being ready to kind of think about things in a different way, whereas when you're if you don't do the mental work, then it won't come to you if you're in this like hyper vigilant state. For example, you can be a very anxious individual, and you can be given the same information in a very anxious state, and you'll react to it completely different as if versus when you're completely calm. That's why they tell you to do these things like deep breathing, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, or whatever, whatever you've been told to do. That's why you do it, so you calm down your nervous system, and then it allows you to think about things more clearly, because when your nervous system is all fired up and you're in the fight or flight mode, then you can't properly think about whatever's going on. It's not going to be the same, and from what I understand, that's the same with other psychological issues. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful for this psychiatrist appointment. I'm hoping that I will have a good talk with them, and I sort of want to document that whole thing because I've been through it all. I've I'd like to have this channel to see my progress and just share it with other people and say this is, an illness just like any other. That's like a fundamental message, because like when you hide it, like what are you saying? Like that you're afraid of other people knowing this? Like, yeah, you can have like conditions like colitis or Crohn's or all these different things, and you can share them, and people react in very different ways to it, as if you tell them you have certain serious psychological conditions, and the world can just be a cruel place. In this video I discussed the link between OCD and schizophrenia. Let me know if you guys have been, any of you people watching have been diagnosed with both. But yeah, like I said, I think a lot of the people who have both or have one or the other often don't go out to seek help like people do with other conditions, because these are conditions where you become very paranoid, and you're in like a constant paranoid state, paralyzed with fear, paralyzed with anxiety. And if you have both, they're going to be feeding off of each other, and you're going to be very anxious and fearful a lot of the time. Another video, I'll talk more about the connection between schizophrenia and OCD in like a dedicated video. But yeah, let me know if you guys have these conditions. Like I said, yeah, these people have them. You're going to be more ambivalent to get help, and it may take you quite a while to even get to the point where you're like, yeah, I probably had a problem. Or if you come down from like, you have extreme delusions, and then you come down quite a bit, then maybe you can start to make those connections on an intellectual level, where some people try to rationalize things. With OCD, schizophrenia, the world often gets smaller, like a lot of mental illnesses. These ones in particular, like I said, paranoia, fear, anxiety, and unwillingness to open up. The unwillingness too, because a lot of other people, they don't have this paranoid mindset exactly that other people have. So yeah, two very debilitating conditions. Yeah, and right now I'm kind of experiencing some of schizophrenia still. It's hard to even tell sometimes with everything that goes on. Like, maybe it's because you like everything is so pertinent to you, and with OCD it's the same as always. So yeah, let's see if this changes anytime soon. Psychiatrist appointment. Thanks for listening to me ramble on about this. Peace out.